at home wanted to know why this man did not have a family doctor. The old man broke down and started crying. When he called me a few days later, he broke down again. He wanted to know what he should do. And I tried to comfort him and reassure him that he wasn't alone and this problem would be addressed eventually. Again, just last Friday, I was speaking with a mother from Clare. She told me that her son had gone up for an operation in Halifax. Once he returned home, she asked her own family doctor to accept her son in his practice during his recovery period from major surgery. Unfortunately, this was not possible. So, no OR report, no discharge summary could be forwarded to a family doctor at home. So therefore, the specialist in Halifax had the responsibility for the post-operative visits and extra workload on his end, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, there are many rural communities like Clare throughout Nova Scotia in need of family physicians. So again, in Thursday's budget speech, Mr. Speaker, we heard the government talking about a renewed effort to recruit doctors, particularly for rural Nova Scotia. Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid if the government does not hurry up with recruiting, we're going to lose some of our doctors because heavy work days, long hours, and especially burnt out. The number of patients per practice are certainly beyond acceptable numbers. I understand, according to the Canadian Medical Association, the acceptable numbers for patients for a rural family physician is between 1,600 and 2,000 patients. I remember asking one of our doctors from home how many patients that he had in his practice. Mr. Speaker, I was told he had too many. 3, 4, 5,000. That's certainly, it's not acceptable, Mr. Speaker. Many residents are expressing their concerns for the well-being of these physicians. And quite a few of them, Mr. Speaker, are afraid that they will lose their own family doctor because of their heavy workloads. So, Mr. Speaker, these dedicated professionals, men and women doctors, deserve a better working environment. So in closing, Mr. Speaker, when you look at the fact that 879,863 Nova Scotians don't realize how fortunate that they are to have a family doctor. Let's not forget that 56,000 Nova Scotians don't have family doctors. And when you look on the website of the Department of Health, and on the page where the Department of Health are identifying positions available for family physicians around Nova Scotia, and many of these postings, many of these opportunities are in rural Nova Scotia's communities. So, Mr. Speaker, there is definitely, I'm glad to hear the government talking about a renewed effort in trying to recruit doctors for many of these communities. But I would certainly call upon the government the need to hurry up, because for many of these communities, the doctors that are there now are having overloaded, I guess, medical practices. They're basically trying to cover for doctors who have retired, who have moved away, and the workload, Mr. Speaker, is certainly, how they manage to do it is certainly beyond my comprehension. So again, Mr. Speaker, this government needs to show leadership in helping many rural communities throughout Nova Scotia in attracting family physicians. You know, Mr. Speaker, I know in our situation in the municipality of Clare, it was not just the responsibility of the provincial government, the responsibility of the Minister of Health. You know, the municipality of Clare, there was many different partners inside our community that helped out recruiting doctors in the past. So again, Mr. Speaker, there's many different partners in many of these rural communities that want to help out. So again, in closing, Mr. Speaker, I think it's absolutely critical that this government treats all Nova Scotians equally, regardless of where they live. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for having the attention. Thank you.
Recognized, Honourable Member for Kings North.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad to join in the debate on supply on behalf of my constituents and my own behalf. There's a bumper sticker that you'll often see on the back of cars that says, "If you think education is expensive, try ignorance." And I like the message behind that bumper sticker because I think it says something that we'd all agree on in this chamber, that education is critical to a healthy province and to a strong country. There are, of course, critics of our educational system. On the left, you have the philosopher Ivan Illich, who has some criticisms that our schools act as institutions that really brainwash people and drive out true knowledge. You have those on the right in the fundamentalist church in the States, Billy Sunday, for example, who decried the overemphasis on education, the lack of emphasis upon the church. And you have those nowadays who are worried that our education is being dominated by a technological emphasis rather, Mr. Speaker, than a broad emphasis upon education as a whole. And George Grant, the great Canadian philosopher, former professor at Dalhousie, is probably an example of this school of thought. And I have some sympathy with this myself. But nonetheless, these provisos aside, I think we'd all agree that education, the importance of education, can never be understated in a modern democratic society for at least three reasons. One is that the education helps build a person's self-respect and sense of self-dignity. And I think that that's an important reason in and of itself to pursue education. Secondly, it helps give someone understanding of their role in society, of the civic vision and hopefully of civic participation. And Mr. Speaker, for any democratic society to exist, we need educated people who are willing to involve themselves within the democratic process and speak and hold governments accountable, bring forth new ideas, and help to make a democracy work. That, after all, is what a democracy is all about. And then there's the issue of employability. We know from statistics that there are many jobs out there, but, Mr. Speaker, they're available not for people with only grade 12 education, but they need some form of post-secondary education. And we know that the job market's changing in that, a grade 12 education, although it may have been adequate in the past, is quickly becoming only a stepping stone to something else, that a post-secondary education is necessary. And Mr. Speaker, like yourself, like others in this chamber, I'm constantly dealing with people who come to me for help, who've dropped out of school perhaps, and who I see a very bleak horizon for them unless I can encourage them to get back and upgrade their education, which I try to do. And I spend a lot of time working with such people. And so I'm delighted with our government's decision that was announced last year to fund the Nova Scotia Community College to the tune of $123 million, the largest funding infusion of cash in Nova Scotia history, Mr. Speaker. I'm particularly delighted, as the member for Kings North, that Kings Tech campus just on the border of the town of Kentville in Kings County was chosen to receive the largest amount of cash, the largest expansion of any campus outside of the metro area. And so delighted for that. It'll receive thank you very much, $13 million, Mr. Speaker, which will result in 469 new seats, and renovated campus. And the work has already begun on that, Mr. Speaker. They started work back in October, and it's going on. You can see the bulldozers at work with a new campus commons and with a new trades wing. And it's slated to be completed in 2006, but already the sense of enthusiasm, the energy, the vision that has been created by our government's decision is palpable not only on King Tut campus, but throughout Kings County as a whole. And when you look at the money throughout the Nova Scotia Community College, throughout the province as a whole. I participated with the Premier and the Honourable David Morris and Mr. Scott Bryson when he was still on the right side of things in a bulb planting, as we planted bulbs to symbolize the hope that would come. Not only... I think he's changing his tune very quickly, Mr. Speaker. But yeah, about many things, Mr. Speaker, but we'll have to let Mr. Bryson speak for himself. But anyway, I don't know. Following the bouncing ball is not my. Anyway, I'm being heckled, Mr. Speaker, by members of my own house. Speaking about members of my own house, Mr. Speaker, if I can deviate from education, and King's Tech campus is my focus. I guess I want to speak a little bit about the Senate because I brought in a resolution. Mr. Speaker, that I hope to get passed through the House. Historically, the Senate, as you know, has been seen as a check on the House of Commons, as the forum for sober second thought. But another feature of the Senate that was very, very important, and is the feature that leads me to make this resolution, and I'll be following up with a letter to the Prime Minister as well, asking him not to appoint a senator for Nova Scotia until the First Ministers have had a look at this, and hopefully we can have some form of election that would make this senator represent the province. But that was one of the original features that the Senate would represent the regions, and would help to balance things out. And I believe in that, Mr. Speaker, and because of the predominance of population in Ontario and in Quebec, both the West and the East, oftentimes we feel like the periphery, that the decisions are made in the centre, and because of the system in the House of Commons, they have the control of the House of Commons. I mean, there's no question about that. The only balance to that is, I feel, an elected Senate. Now, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member for the beautiful Musquodoboit. I try and forget where he's from at times, Mr. Speaker. But anyway, he gave a nay, I understand, to this resolution because of the sort of simplistic attitude towards Senate reform. There is an attitude out there, it's not working. I agree it's not working, so they just say get rid of it. That's a simplistic solution. And Mr. Speaker, I cannot let my opponents...
Please, Member Colchester Muscat Valley, the point of order.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the viewpoints of my honourable colleague for Kings North, but I want to be consistent, Mr. Speaker, in my support of the abolition of the Senate, and the some $70 or $80 million that is spent in that glorified chatting room could be better spent on the homelessness and child poverty in this country. And I would suggest that that's where that $70 or $80 million should go, rather than to this chamber of second sober thought that sits there until they're 75 if they live that long. Order, thank you.
Not a point of order, certainly another point of view. The honourable member for Kings North has the floor.
I cannot let my opponent's ignorance, however vast, prejudice my own knowledge, however small. I stick by my call for an elected Senate, and if the honourable member will let me finish, the reason why an elected Senate is good is because it provides this regional representation, this balance on the predominance of the provinces of Ontario and Quebec, which will always dominate. And so
order,
that's
please.
why.
Order, please. The honourable member for Cape Breton West on the point of order.
Perhaps if the honourable member would entertain a short question.
The honourable member Kings North allow for question.
More gracious than he was shown yesterday, and we'll entertain a question.
Oh. The honourable member Cape Breton West on a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the last hyperbole was a little unfair because I had entertained questions from his caucus colleagues. But I wanted to go on the record as well. Unlike the member, I have already written the Prime Minister and on this issue of an elected Senate, and I wanted to put it on the record for the honourable member. When I do receive a reply, I will provide the information accordingly, because my understanding is the Prime Minister does support reform of the Senate and is in favour of an elected Senate.
Young member Kings North has the floor.
Thank you very much for that very helpful interjection, and I'll look forward to hearing from your letter, because I understand too that the Prime Minister is calling for reform of the Senate and open to reform of the Senate, and that's why it's timely that we put forward these sorts of proposals. And as I said, the important thing about an elected Senate is the ability that it gives it to represent the regions in a much fairer manner than we now have in the House of Commons. If one looks at the number of seats, for example, currently, you could see that if you divide it into regions in a Senate, the central provinces have 48%. We have 30%. If the number of senators remained as it is right now, 105 senators. So you can see that and that's compared to the percentage that we have in the House of Commons, which is only about 3%. And that's the problem, of course. The problem is the current. It's not that the Senate's broke. The problem is the appointment method is broke. It's become a patronage chamber for the Prime Minister. And that's why you have this predominance of Liberal senators who represent what the Prime Minister wants, rather than representing their regions and having the freedom, Mr. Speaker, to be that House of sober second thought.
Order, please. The honourable member for Eastern Shore on a point of order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll just inform the good member that, in my opinion, there are 100 senators there now, and I believe 88 have been appointed by Liberal or former Liberal governments. Thank you.
Thank you. Not a point of order, but certainly a clarification of facts for the House. The honourable member for Kings North has the floor.
We need an elected Senate. The point is that we should have an elected Senate where the senators can do two things: represent the regions, which is what they're supposed to do, and provide a break, a school of second sober thought. So I appreciate the interjection of the honourable member who supported me in this proposal of an elected Senate, and I think he did vote for the resolution, and I thank him for that, and appreciate his support of that, because an elected Senate will do those two things. It will help provide regional balance, and it will help provide this forum for sober second thought, but if and only if the senators are elected, and not if they're appointed by the Prime Minister and it becomes a forum for patronage, as we've seen. In fact, the last selection for Nova Scotia was in many senses quite frustrating for Nova Scotians, and that's why it's timely that Mr. Martin has called for proposals by the provinces, and that's why I want to put the resolution forward and follow up with a letter to Mr. Martin saying, please hold off on making a Senate appointment. There is one coming up very soon, until this new system is in place and we can ensure that senators will represent and will speak for Nova Scotian interests. Because although we're a small province, we're a very proud province with a great history and much to contribute to the Canadian nation. We do it through our MPs, of course, but because of the small number of MPs in the large House, it's sometimes difficult to be heard. But in an elected Senate, we would have a far larger voice. I've already given you the statistics, and they speak for themselves. They should be persuasive, even for the honourable member who said nay to my resolution. 30% of the senators come from Atlantic Canada, versus 3% for Nova Scotia, versus about 9% for the Atlantic provinces when you look at the House of Commons. 30 versus about 9%. That shows you the clout that we would have in the House if the senators represented the region rather than being put in simply on the whim of the Prime Minister. So I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, I got off King's Tech education, which I wanted to speak on, King's Tech College, because I'm so happy about what's being done there, so proud of what the government's done, and so thrilled at the sense of energy that this brings to not only the town of Kentville, but the region of Kings. But I sorry for following this rabbit track, but it is an important rabbit track to follow. elected Senate, and I thank you for allowing me to participate in this debate on supply.
Order, please. The motion is carried. Yes.
Just for the information of the viewing audience, we're waiting for the staff from the Department of Health to enter, and then we'll start to run the clock.
Was misleading us.
Okay. Okay, we'll start the clock. Do you want to give him a moment? Okay, we'll start the clock at 2:21. I recognize the honourable member for Pictou West.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I certainly welcome this opportunity to have a few minutes of the Minister's time and his staff to ask a few questions in the health estimates, and particularly as they perhaps may impact on my riding in Pictou West. But I've looked through the health estimates, and there's a number of concerns I want to, or questions I have for the Minister. Certainly pleased, as we know in the budget, there is a resolution there around long-term care, and it's good to know that before this year is out, we'll have a solution for seniors, and they'll no longer be discriminated against in having to pay for their medical costs. But between now and then, of course, we have 8 or 9 months. I suspect that things will be pretty much as normal, and that seniors will continue to have to pay their medical costs and a total cost somewhere in an average of $5,000 to $6,000 a month in nursing homes. So in many ways, January 1st can't come soon enough. But I suspect there's probably some families, some seniors, that may be holding off until January 1st just to save those additional fees that will be charged. And I guess my question to the Minister then is around the period of time between now and January the 1st. Do you see a backlog, or is there going to be people shying away from perhaps applying for long-term care because of the financial savings that will occur after January 1?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The honourable member is correct to put his finger on a challenge that does exist between now and January 1st, and that is a challenge that is recognized by the department And it's an important challenge for us because decisions that are delayed with respect to seeking long-term care will wind up putting pressures elsewhere in the healthcare system. And we are very mindful of that situation. And the approach that we intend to take is to take an approach that will be as encouraging as possible for people to make their decisions in an appropriate manner with respect to long-term care. However, the criteria will not change until January 1, 2005, but there is an element of discretion that can be applied in terms of how the situation is enforced, and it's not in the department's interest to create problems elsewhere in the system. So there is going to be some, I hope a judicious approach to this that will try to minimize as much as possible any backlogs. The encouraging part about it, of course, is as time goes on, then of course the period of time that people will be impacted will get shorter and shorter and shorter. So I think as we approach the date, there will be much less of that pressure. The challenge is in the early months leading up to the changeover. But Mr. Chairman, we do recognize it as a challenge, and it's one where considerable amount of common sense will have to be applied with respect to decision making.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
I thank the Minister for that answer, and certainly it, as you mentioned, it will be a challenge, and there will be, I'm sure, individuals that may want to hold off if they're, as the months go by, they'll be waiting until January 1 in order to save dollars. I was going to ask the Minister, though, a couple other specific questions in relation to the long-term care around rates. I know every nursing home or long-term care facility is different in the rates that they charge, but once this new system is in place, as of January the 1st, what will be the rate then for room and board? Will it be a uniform rate across the province, or will it fluctuate according to the nursing home? And secondly, related to that, Mr. Minister, is the $150 that will be allocated to each nursing home resident is allowed to keep. Is that as it is now, that after 3 months, if they don't spend it, they lose it? Or will it be theirs to keep as long as they wish and spend it as they wish? So those two questions right now.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. First of all, in answer to the first question, it will be a uniform rate across the province. There will be no variance from one part of the province to the other. So an average rate will be determined. The question of the money that's available, there will be no restrictions relative to that. That will be a portion of income that they are allowed to retain. So they can treat that income in the same manner that they would treat income now. And in the interim, we have removed the restrictions relative to how that money is spent, and I believe we have also remove the restriction relative to the accumulation of that money. So the concept is totally different. It's no longer an allowance, it's their income that they're going to be permitted to keep.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Minister. You mentioned the room and board will be uniform across the province. I guess, do you have any idea at this moment what level that will be charged to the nursing home residents?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
It's around
Rate will be capped, is it? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The difficulty with providing a number is that people might tend to focus on that number, and we're not in a position where we feel comfortable in giving a definitive number at this point in time. It might be helpful if I could just tell the committee what is different about the two charges. The costs associated with room and board include maintenance, dietary services, housekeeping, management and administration, capital costs, and the return on investment. With respect to the healthcare costs, it will include nursing, personal care, recreation, physiotherapy, and occupational therapy. And 85% of an individual's income will go toward his or her room and board expenses. That is it. Now, I could give you a number let's say that it is approximately, we're going to cap it at approximately $66 a day, but that's not a number the member should leave here with and say that that's what it would be, but that might help with respect to establishing the range of number that we're looking at.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess a ballpark figure then in that $66 range is what seniors will be charged for their room and board then. It seems to be an approximate figure then at this point in time. I have one specific question. I guess I was contacted by a spouse of a nursing home resident, and he's paying presently, I think, $1,000 a month towards his wife's care in a nursing home. And so he's asked me that after January the 1st, under the new rules, as a spouse, will he be required to pay anything towards his wife's care in a nursing home? Like I said, at present it's $1,000 a month he's paying, and he wants to know whether, under the new regulations, if he'll be required to pay any portion of that cost.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
They want you to say it's going to be around $71.
Oh, if I can go back to the previous question, we're getting some numbers for us, and it looks as if it's around $71, not the 66 that I gave you. But again, the number has not been is not definite. With respect to the question he just asked, all residents will be assessed relative to income and will be charged on the basis of their income after January 1st, 2005, and it's the income of the individual that will be used. Okay.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Just for clarification then, I guess, Mr. Minister, you mentioned maybe the room and board costs will be about $71 a day, and their cost to the resident will be based on their income. And if their income is less than the $71 a day times 30 days in a month or whatever, is there going to be any additional charge to a family member? Or is it, if they're short, then if they don't have the $71 times 30 in a month, that cost is picked up by government, not by the spouse of the individual?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Yeah, the number that would be charged would be capped at that amount, and the amount of your income that you would be charged would be 85%. That is the most that would be taken from any individual, and any shortfall would be compensated for through the department. Okay. No.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to switch gears now to a second question. And this revolves around help for individuals with diabetes. And I know that in your throne speech there was a promise there of help for low-income Nova Scotians that are suffering with diabetes, and I do believe also it was in your Blue Book too last summer during the election campaign. And certainly in my riding, I have a number of individuals that are suffering with diabetes. In fact, there's one young lady that's been to see me 2 or 3 times, and I think actually she wrote you a letter asking for consideration, asking for help. She works in a business at the present time where she is receiving medical benefits, and but she's sort of locked into that job, and she would like to go back to school and like to take training. But if she does that, of course, she'll lose her medical benefits from the job she has at present. So she really feels that with the high cost of the strips and the needles and the insulin, and she just can't get out of the job she's in. And so I've looked through the budget estimates to see if anywhere there I could find your promised benefit of help for low-income Nova Scotians that suffer from diabetes, and perhaps it's there, but I just have not been able to find it. So I guess my question, Mr. Minister, is when can we expect help for low-income diabetes, or is it something there I've overlooked in your estimates?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The answer to the honourable member's question is no, you have not overlooked anything. The commitment that was made, which was contained in the blueprint, which we used in the most recent election campaign, was a commitment to cover these costs in year 2. We are currently involved with the Canadian Diabetes Association Nova Scotia chapter in terms of formulating the program and the policies and how it would be developed, with the intention of bringing that program forward in the next fiscal year. So we're currently involved in the planning process, and by bringing it forward in the next fiscal year, we will have fulfilled the commitment made in the blueprint.
The Honourable Member for Pictou West.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Minister, then for clarifying that. And like I said, there's certainly low-income Nova Scotians out there that are very much like to see this brought forward as soon as possible, and hopefully then next year, I guess, is your answer that it will be in the budget. I want to ask a question around mental health initiatives, and certainly a very important component of our healthcare system, and in particular in relation to the Aberdeen Hospital in New Glasgow. We've had a shortage of psychiatrists and mental health specialists there from time to time, and in fact at one point we were down to just one visiting locum, I think, that was there part-time. But it is a concern that we haven't had enough professionals to deal with the situation. And I know one initiative that was undertaken in the Glasgow area. They've set up, I guess, a self-help group. They have it's called the New Hope Clubhouse. It's on the East River Road in New Glasgow, and they've suffered some losses there of professional staff. They feel they're short on the help that they need. But I guess a couple related questions, and Mr. Minister. One, I guess, is at the Aberdeen Hospital. What is the situation there with our professional staff? Is there enough to handle the workload, or can you just give us an update on that? And secondly, is there additional help for the New Hope Clubhouse in that town?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the honourable member for his patience. The honourable member is speaking about an issue that is indeed a challenge for for the department and for the district health authorities, and that is the challenge of recruitment. We have made salary adjustments to the money paid to psychiatrists so that it would become more attractive for them to work in district health authorities throughout the province, and we believe that will be helpful in the recruitment effort. We are also, with respect to international accreditation, taking steps to, and that's one of the targeted areas of taking steps to ensure that psychiatrists can receive accreditation from offshore or outside the boundaries of this country. With respect to the New Hope, is it the New Hope facility? That is something that would be addressed through the psychiatric services of the District Health Authority, and it is something that they would be making a decision on with respect to support for that group.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do know the New Hope Clubhouse offers invaluable support to those with mental health problems, and it's sort of like a self-help group. They go in, they can support one another, and but in conjunction with professional staff as well. And it sort of replaces an older model a self-help group that was in the town and is no longer. But just recently they did lose some staff there, and I guess my request, if there's any extra money, maybe in a budget line somewhere that's under contingency, or that perhaps extra services could be offered to that group that would really help them in Pictou County. I guess my final question, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask the Minister with is around the Health Council. And I know I can remember being here in this legislature in 1998 when it was reestablished, and it was trumpeted out as being of great benefit to Nova Scotians, and that there would be some coordination or liaison between the government of the day and community health boards. And I think it did serve a role in that regard. And one of the former chairs of the Health Council is from my riding, Vivian Farrell, from the town of Pictou, and she certainly considers that the decision is unfortunate, and the voice now of ordinary Nova Scotians is going to be lost in this decision. So I guess I want to ask the Minister, why is it you did do away with the Health Council, and how will ordinary Nova Scotians now have a voice on health concerns?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The circumstances change from one period in our history to another as we move forward, and there are, as a result of these changed circumstances, it's appropriate to review the status of organizations or of programs or of policies, and we decided that to look at the role of the Health Council in this province because of a number of changes that have occurred. And one of those changes relates to the standard of care. That is something that is now being addressed by the National Health Council. And we have very effective representation and will continue to have representation on the National Health Council. And it will play a role with respect to establishing standards right across the country, and indeed will be instrumental and helpful as we address the challenges of healthcare going into the future. So that's one fundamental change that has occurred. The other mandate relating to the Health Council was promoting health care of citizens. But we now have an Office of Health Promotion, and the Office of Health Promotion has really taken on that particular role, and under the leadership of my colleague has made great progress in my view. And the other element that was being addressed by the community, or sorry, by the Provincial Health Council, was, as the honourable member suggested, providing an opportunity for Nova Scotians to have input relative to the provision of health care within the province. What I want to remind the honourable member of is that the budget of the Provincial Health Council, which I believe was $348,000, that entire budget is going to be apportioned to the community health boards throughout the province. And we believe that by providing that money to the community health boards, that there will be much more opportunity for citizens to become involved in the process. And I would suggest that it will enhance the level of accountability that that the person occupying my job will have as the health boards are strengthened and as they get more and more involved in terms of establishing priorities for provinces. And I should correct what I said. It would be the DHAs that would apportion the money to the district, or to the community health boards. It's not going directly, it's going through the DHAs. But I would suggest, with respect to the issue of accountability, there will be even more accountability as a result of this. And secondly, with respect to community involvement in the establishment of priorities relative to health care, we will have even greater community involvement as a result of this move. It's a move that I'm looking forward to the results of this, and I believe that great progress will be made. So, Mr. Chairman, in summation, circumstances change, and when circumstances change, it's appropriate to take decisions as a result of those changed circumstances.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I certainly agree with the minister. You know, we can never have enough consultation between ordinary Nova Scotians and the department on the matter of healthcare issues. Very important to Nova Scotians. With that, Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Chairman, I'm going to share my time with the member for Sackville-Cobequid, so I'll turn it now over to him.
The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor for me today here to stand in the health estimates and address some questions to the Minister of Health and his staff. It's not just an honor because I come from a community that's been waiting a long time for a new facility, but also an honor as a healthcare professional and as a paramedic to be able to have the attention of the Minister of Health. I'm sure there's many of my colleagues would rather exchange positions with me today, so I hope I do some honor to them, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to draw some attention to what I just mentioned in our community of Sackville is going to be the new home of the new Cobequid Community Health Centre. And for years, as a paramedic and going into that facility, I realized many years ago that there was a need, and at the time, the community support for a new facility was endorsed by the government. But it's been many years. There's been delays, and the community has been quite patient and hasn't lost hope. And with the new groundbreaking ceremony that took place later last year, the prospect of a new facility is nearer than it was years ago. So many of the residents in our community who are served by the old, I'll mention as the old Cobequid Centre, and many of the members on the government side, many of their residents also use that facility, and I know that their community members have supported this this much-needed new facility in the area, which actually their catchment numbers range up to about 100,000 people, Mr. Chairman. So it's an important facility that needs to I think be opened quickly and hopefully have no more delays. I'm sure my the previous MLA for the area has in the past, I'm sure, mentioned this facility to the previous health minister. So I'll continue on that legacy, and some of the questions a lot of my community members or community residents have about the facility would be, one question would be, how much expenditure was put towards the facility last year in the prep work, Mr. Chair?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
About $2.3 million.
Last year, Mr. Chairman, an amount of about $2.3 million was expended on the facility, and this year an amount of $13.26 million has been budgeted, and the remainder, about $10 million, will be in the next fiscal year. We anticipate construction to get underway shortly with respect to that facility.
The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Well, that's very encouraging, not only to me, but to the 100,000 people that use the facility or the potential use of the facility. So that's very promising, and I look forward to the construction of the new site, and I know that the groundwork has been laid, and they're getting ready to do some foundation work, I believe, or putting the footings in soon. During the last election, being my first attempt at talking and canvassing and trying to see what the people of the community really want, the number one question that a lot of these people were asking me, because they have been very patient, Mr. Minister, over the years for this facility to be finished, was when is it going to be finished? And really, it's just a simple question of when does the department or yourself, Minister, foresee the completion of this much-needed facility in our community?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
The facility will be completed in fiscal 05-06. I probably shouldn't get to the point of identifying months at this stage, but once the construction is underway, we can provide more definitive timetable. Very much appreciate the comments of the honourable member with respect to that facility, and it's what's of interest in terms of that facility is that it will be focusing on the provision of service to citizens, and that I think will help as and it will become I believe a focal point. Mind you, it's unique in terms of the catchment area that it serves. The honourable member indicated about 100,000 people, but it is a facility that will provide services without the necessity of beds associated with it. So it's one that's dedicated to service and medical services in its entirety, and that I believe will be a very positive contribution to the total provision of medical services within the province, and we definitely look forward to its completion and getting under full operation.
The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I have to agree with you, Minister. I mean, the focal point of the services that it is going to provide it's going to be amazing, and over the last year or several years, we've had plans and floor plans and the different services that are going to be provided out there. One I'll make mention, I think, is the chemotherapy area. I believe that patients now won't have to travel so far or come to the city when they're receiving treatments such as chemotherapy for their illnesses, and I think that's very important when dealing with residents that are going through such a hard health emergency or health condition, that they like being in their own home as much as they can, and really dread going to the hospital, and sometimes those treatments are drawn out and is a long part of their day when they have to go and seek those treatments. I think when the new facility does open, it will draw, I think the community together a little more, and realize that this facility can play an important part in the healthcare system, especially in HRM here and in the province, I think, because we do have residents from all over that find themselves in the new Cobequid Community Health Center, if it's from people flying into the international airport or traveling along the roads, because it's an easy access off the highway. So I think what I was trying to get to is that this facility can be a major player in the services and the condition of our system here, especially in HRM. Because as you're aware, Mr. Minister, and I'm sure many people here in the province are aware, that there has been what we call a crisis going on over the last little while. Some people say it's been months, maybe a year, but being involved in providing a service in Nova Scotia in the healthcare, it's been years in the making, Mr. Minister, and it's been years that we've needed to address some of the issues, especially when it comes to emergency rooms. Just as of Christmas time, when it seemed like the crisis boiled over, and we had healthcare professionals like the ER staff at the QE2 come out publicly and state that there needs to be done, and I was quite amazed when I seen that transpire. Because we're dealing with a lot of these healthcare professionals over the last 8 or 9 years, they were never the ones I don't think they were ones to step out into the limelight, if you want to call it, and go in front of the cameras and the public and really denounce what was going on or the problems that existed in the ER. So it really took a lot for these employees to stand up and say that there is a crisis going on in the ER. And I have to tell you, Mr. Chairman and Minister, that it's not gone away. I talk to a lot of healthcare professionals on a regular basis, a lot of my colleagues who are still working in the province as paramedics, and it's still there. And the conditions in the ERs, yet they're not in the limelight and they're not in the papers every day. There's still a crisis going on, and there's still long waits. And people are waiting hours, if not days, in the ER. I know the minister had mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if it was yesterday or the day before, about beds aren't the issue, really. And I agree somewhat with them, but beds are a big issue when you need a bed in the ER. And when you're in the waiting room and there's no beds in the ER, and there's people there that are admitted to the hospital and need a bed to go to, then it is a bed issue. And when you have ambulances, sometimes up to 7, 11 ambulances sitting outside the department waiting for a bed to transfer their patient over, it's a bed issue. And as coming from a paramedic background, and when I heard that a lot of these ambulances were waiting hours on end, Mr. Minister, and it seems it's just getting worse over the last year. Since I've taken a leave from that profession, I've talked to many colleagues who said over the last couple months that it's unbelievable the difference in the wait times that they have now compared to, say, 9 months ago. And even I've noticed over the last, I'd say, 2 years, the increase in the times that we wait when we transfer a patient over to the ER staff. Because under policy and protocols, when an ambulance in this province brings someone to an ER, they don't transfer care over immediately. You don't just arrive and that's the end of the story. You have to wait to transfer care to the proper people, and if there's no beds, then the paramedics stay with that patient or those patients and treat them. And I've heard the term earlier in media releases about hallway medicine, and that's what was going on. Myself, many times over the last couple of years, has been waiting in the ER and had to treat patients with either increased pain from a fracture or other medications have to be given to them, and the paramedics are treating them. When I think what is happening is that the communities in our province are being left unserviced by paramedics. And the day the 11 ambulances were outside the ER, that's 11 communities in this province that had nobody covering them. Yes, the paramedics do a great job, and dispatch does a great job in trying to place ambulances throughout the province when we're low, but it's just fortunate that we haven't had any major instances that that needed a large number of ambulances at once when there was such a backlog in the ER. So we've been really fortunate and lucky, I think, with the deployment of our ambulances. So getting back to a few questions on the Cobequid Centre again, and I think the role it can play in the future when it does open. A lot of our residents have asked me, like I said in the previous question, through the campaign, and still contact my office. And they're under the assumption that when the new hospital is built, it's going to be 24-hour service. And as you're well aware, Mr. Minister, after 10 p.m. they close their doors. They don't just kick the patients out, but they treat the patients that are inside, transfer it onto the queue, and then open back up at 7 in the morning. As a paramedic, I mean, emergencies happen at all time and at any time of the night. So I don't know where this misconception came, and I try to let as many people in my community know that this new facility is not going 24 hours. So what I want to ask you is, do you have any funds or are you looking at diverting any funds to extending the hours of the new hospital when it opens, or even extending it to 24-hour service?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In response to the honourable member's question, the decision taken with respect to the hours of operation is a decision that was based on an analysis of the demand that would exist for that facility. And the demand between the hours of 10 o'clock and 7 in the morning, the demand is very light. So and that demand is light not just in that catchment area, but it's lighter throughout the region. So it's anticipated that it would not be an appropriate use of resources to have it operate on a 24-hour basis. But I should point out to the honourable member that should the demand prove to be there, that it would indeed have the capacity to be able to operate on a 24-hour basis. So as the facility opens and begins operation, and the analysis of the demand relative to its operation is carried out, there will be very careful monitoring, and if it is necessary to look at another arrangement, then I'm sure that that it would be looked at, because it would be inappropriate to simply shift an overload in demand from one place to another. But based on the studies that have been done, it is anticipated that it can handle most of the volumes between the hours of 7 and 10, and because demand between 10 and 7 is less all over, that other facilities that are operating 24 hours could do the job of looking after people that would need emergency service in that time frame. However, just to repeat, the facility would have the capacity to operate 24 hours if necessary.
The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm encouraged somewhat from the comments, but there has been a demand, and even as early as through the Christmas holiday, there was an incident that the facility had to stay open or had to commit to servicing patients that were in the facility at the time. And that reason for them having to keep those patients there and keep staff and doctors there was because the QE2, which at the time was overloaded, wouldn't accept the patients. After 10 o'clock, the agreement is that the Cobequid Centre would transfer patients into the QE2. But on this night, I believe was about, I think around December 30th, the QE2 refused those patients. So I understand the point of the emergencies and the studies that have gone on through the community and throughout the province warrants not to open at 24 hours. But there has been times, many times over the last several years, that even extended hours or even a trial would probably have alleviated some of the problems we've seen here at the QE2. So there has been some times in the past, I think that was the first time ever that the Cobequid had to actually keep 5 or 6 patients throughout the night. So I'll change things here a little bit, and I want to cover a little bit about the emergency health services line here in the estimates at 12.20, and I see under the line for emergency health services and that it provides ambulance services in the province as well as air medical transport, communications dispatch, and other related services. So I see that 81.5 million, I take it, is that number I see right there. Is that correct?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, the operating costs for the estimate for 0405 is $81.5 million. And just want to go back to the previous discussion, if I might, Mr. Chairman. There obviously may be times when it would be appropriate in times of high demand, whether it's related to, an infection or an outbreak. I don't like to use the word flu in relation to emergency room, but if some such event were to occur, then indeed it would be appropriate to be in a position to be able to operate a facility like that for 24 hours. But I don't believe that we would want to keep it operating 24 hours just in case if the demand is not appropriate for that. And I understand also that there is a recognition of the need on the part of the Capital Health to be able to accept patients from ambulances in a more rapid fashion than has been the case previously, and there continues to be work done to address that. And I understand that there has been some improvement in the period of the last couple of months relative to that. But it is recognized as a problem, and efforts are being made to address it.
The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I'd like to, so the figure here on 12.2 of the total budget for emergency health services is 81.5 million. I mean, that's a huge number. So I'm wondering if you could break down, do you have the breakdown of that total cost with the three, well, I'll say the three, probably the three biggest users of the funds, which would be, I would take it emergency medical care and life flight, or the air medical transport, and the communications or dispatch. Or is communication dispatch all linked in together with emergency medical care, since they're taking care of both?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps I could recommend to the honourable member if he would go to 1211 and in the supplements. Yeah, 1211 in the supplements. And you will see a breakdown of the net numbers that are there. There you have it. So you can see there the ambulance subsidy payments are 58.6 million. The ground ambulance operations 745,000. Medical quality control 512,000, and provincial programs 7.58. Communications and dispatch 3 million, and the amortization figures for EHS are 3.5 million. Is that the breakdown you were looking for?
The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Minister. So that actually brings me probably to one of my questions, is the around, I think, the ambulance subsidy payments. Can you clarify what that line indicates, or where that source comes from?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's the amount of money that's paid to EMC for the services that they provide.
The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So looking back, I guess, through the supplements to public accounts under emergency medical care, I noticed last year's expenditure was about 60.7 million. The previous year was 56 million. So I see that from last year to this year, they're about the same. So do you foresee any great increase or decrease in the next forecast year for that payment?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
The increase in that budget was just over $8 million, and I understand about just over $6 million of that was for increase in paramedics' wages.
The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Great. I hope that increase is there next year when the negotiations start. I'm sure my colleagues would appreciate that. I hope not. I hope not. So that brings us to a couple more questions. One would be user fees. And over the years as a paramedic, I think when I started, user fees were $60 or $65, and there's been several increases. So I'm wondering, and forgive me if I've missed this in anywhere here in the lines, but I'm just wondering, when we do get those user fees for the ambulances, how much was taken in last year on user fees?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amount of the amount of revenue that we've received was $6.9 million, and that was based on the current rate. With the increase, we anticipate receiving $7.5 million, Mr. Chairman, and that of course is based on a rate of $120, but it's important to point out that the actual cost of providing that service is over $600. If you do the cost, so it's over $600, and our fees in this province compare reasonably well. We're about the same as New Brunswick. PEI is 130. In Manitoba, they charge $190, and Saskatchewan charges $275, plus a kilometer charge beyond that, Mr. Chairman.
The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, from the answers I'm receiving, I'm creating more questions. So, I have two more questions on the user fees. One is, I can't understand why in the province, when you use the ambulance and you get charged a user fee, that if you were to call an ambulance for an emergency at home, for instance, MSI covers a large portion of that, and the user fee kicks in at $120. But yet, if you're a passenger in a vehicle in this province, you get a bill for $600, the full amount for that price that the government had put on that one call. So I don't understand what is the reason. Why are we trying to download that on the insurance companies? And maybe could alleviate some of the problems we've seen in insurance rates. So I don't understand why there's a discrepancy in where you're sitting when you do have an emergency or an accident and when you call the ambulance. So I'm just wondering if you have any comments on that.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The communication we have with the insurance companies is that the minimal volume they have relative to ambulance charges is not a factor with respect to the rates. The pressure on rates come from perhaps the treatment of the injuries that occur, but the ambulance charge itself in relation to their total bills is not a contributing factor to the increases. And all Nova Scotians are required to have insurance, and the insurance the insurance companies are in fact the payers with respect to this fee. You know, if we were to somehow start subsidizing them relative to this thing, then Nova Scotians are going to pay in another way. And I would suggest that the increase in the costs would impact more directly on Nova Scotians than it would in the manner in which it is now set up.
The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Many times over the last several years, even though that statement is told to the people that use the service, a lot of them are scared to even attempt to put a claim in for $600 because their fear of increased insurance rates. And over the last 2 or 3 years, insurance rates have skyrocketed. So they're hesitant to put that claim in. So we have, I would say, thousands of Nova Scotians that pay it out of their own pocket just because they know that if they put a claim in for $500-600, if it was a car accident, their insurance rates are going to skyrocket. So they are paying it out of their own pocket, and the insurance companies, with the atmosphere of rate increases, are contributing to them being scared to claim that. So I'm just wondering, is it in your views or your department, are you trying to recoup the cost of the service with these user fees? Are we going to see a $600 user fee in the near future for ambulances? Is that the intention of the department, is try to recoup the cost of the service that we provide to Nova Scotians?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure the honourable member is not engaging in a level of speculation that would cause fear among the people of this province. The fee structure that we have is one that is consistent with past practices, and you know, the amount of money that we are dealing with here is $1.9 million. The insurance industry relative to automobile, the Minister of Transportation can correct me, but it's an amount that's in billions of dollars, and in relative terms, you know, there's quite a spread here, and I don't at all think it to be inappropriate for us to continue to have insurance pay these costs. And I would, I'm a bit surprised that that any accident that would require the use of an ambulance, that I know any slight bumps that I've had in my vehicles in recent years, I don't get away with a $600 bill. It costs an awful lot more than that to fix any of them up, even if it's a slight dent in the door when you're trying to get out of the apartment building parking lot. That can run you over $600. So in relative terms, if you're involved in an accident that's going to require the use of an ambulance, then I would suggest that most of the time your insurance claim, that part that would involve an ambulance itself would be a small portion relative to the total claim. I'm not saying that's true. There would be exceptions to that, but in most cases, I think that portion of the claim that would be related to the ambulance bill would be a relatively small portion relative to the entire damage that would take place in a vehicle involved in an accident that would result in somebody needing an ambulance.
The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the last thing I would want to do would put fear into any Nova Scotians to call for an ambulance. It contradicts what I've done for the last almost 10 years. But I have to tell the minister that many times over the last, since I started in this career, that I had to convince people to go to the hospital when they really needed to go. And the biggest issue wasn't that they didn't want to go to the hospital, it was user fees. And they didn't have the money. They didn't have the job that had insurance that would cover these user fees. They're low-income people, and they were scared that if they went with us and they had received a bill or user fee and they didn't pay it, that they wouldn't get an ambulance. And I always assured people, I don't care about the bill. Don't pay it. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I said, no one will not send an ambulance to your residence, but that is the fear that a lot of Nova Scotians have when they don't have these or don't have the luxury of having a special insurance or coverage through their work. So I want to change gears again. In the opening comments from the minister, he had mentioned first responders and $300,000 that's going to be allotted to them. I'm just wondering, is that a one-time grant, or do you foresee infusing that kind of money to the first responders in this province on a continuing basis?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Chairman, they are a very important part and becoming much more important part of emergency medical services in this province, and we definitely see that as something that would be on an ongoing basis, and that's and there's a recognition here that of the important role that they play, and we want to continue to do that and hopefully achieve a much better integration of services as we move forward.
Okay, the time for the NDP caucus has now elapsed, and I'll now recognize the honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, just a few general comments. I had the opportunity during December, January, and part of February to get around the province with our medical wait times team. Not a very, very big team, but certainly one that was very well received. And we did gain some, I think, very, very strong insights about what is going on in the province. I know on a personal level, it indeed was a great education, and to find out what, in fact, what was happening in different regions. And as a general remark, I would have to say that that people, when they accessed the system, had a good degree of contentment, satisfaction with the services. However, maybe it because we were identified as the wait times team, we certainly heard a lot of stories
from people who didn't have that timely access. And we know that that is a key problem that is with us now, and that certainly will be with us for some time to come. One of the areas that certainly was addressed in many of the communities, and we did get out to a fair amount of rural Nova Scotia, and was the fact that there are many communities that are underserviced by rural doctors, doctors in small towns, small communities. So, and I personally believe that, again, the family doctor is that critical component in the healthcare system. And I was actually amazed, even in my own area, Kingston Greenwood, where we have a mobile population at 14 Wing Greenwood. And my family doctor knocked on quite a number of doors with me last summer in the campaign. And I was amazed that the, well, he's, my family doctor works 80 hours a week, so he would take 2 hours out of the 80 and do a little door-to-door. So anyway, but I was amazed at the number of times that he was actually asked, will you take me on? Will you take me as a patient? And we have many in our area, probably about 1,000 families now without a family doctor. And as I was starting to say, you know, it's a critical component, the family doctor, in terms of having that history and that longitudinal picture of what's going on with a patient, and many without. I'm wondering, Minister, what steps are, you know, directly being taken to improve the number of doctors available in rural Nova Scotia?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We, of course, have a recruitment office within the Department of Health, and they have achieved considerable success in recent years with respect to the recruitment of doctors. We have a rural incentive program that is designed to encourage doctors to establish in rural parts of Nova Scotia. There are other things that we want to do, and one of those is to find a way of streamlining the process and the time that it takes for internationally trained medicine graduates to have their qualifications accepted here in this country. That is a challenge that we're working on and we want to address. The other thing that I can say, we have about 800 physicians, family physicians, in this province, and we are, as I said, actively recruiting and increasing the numbers. We also and I know that this service is available in your DHA. We have I don't have the numbers with me now, or the email address, but there is an information service in the Valley that will identify family practitioners who are taking on new patients, and people can contact that. We continue to have the challenge of recruitment. It's something that we work vigorously on all of the time, and we'll continue to do that. We're operating in an international marketplace. So, as I said, we need to improve our capacity at being able to have doctors recognized who would come from offshore. But we also have the challenge of retaining graduates here, and we have where's the, and you know, we have enticements for them to do that with respect to debt reduction and moving expenses. And we're also looking at alternate funding programs and seeing if ways of assisting them to establish. But as we go forward, we also need to recognize that the family doctor who was kind enough to take time out of an 80-hour week to help you get to this place, that the number of people that we're going to have who are prepared to do that in the future is diminishing, and people, have recognize there are families and there are responsibilities to families, and so we need also to be addressing how we provide services, especially in rural parts of the province, so that we can in fact have medical practitioners who can get a life, to put it bluntly, and be able to practice. So that involves the team concept, and it also involves the necessity to have other healthcare practitioners work with the family doctors in providing services. So the model of service delivery is something that has to be addressed as we move forward, if we're going to effectively address the concern that the honourable member articulates, and that is an adequate supply of medical professionals in rural Nova Scotia.
Honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Minister, and certainly you pointed out an area that is going to be a major concern. I know in my colleague's area of Bridgetown, a family physician left there, and it literally, truly did take 2 physicians to replace his normal 16-hour-a-day workload. And when I look at the age in our area, that certainly is certainly a major, major concern. When I look at, again, the age profile of doctors, and probably typical in rural Nova Scotia. However, recently I believe you received a copy, and I know the NDP received a copy, and I had a letter from Dr. Robertson, Chief of Staff at Valley Regional, and I believe you had the same letter, Mr. Minister. And he was, in terms of recruitment, he was outlining what I saw was a very, very grim picture for Valley Regional, and yet I would consider its location, its services and so on that are provided there, the professional community, near the university and so on, as a very attractive area to have a practice. He was outlining the case of where they had recruited a urologist. As soon as he finished, he was going to be coming to Valley Regional. However, on closer examination of what was taking place at Valley Regional, and that is, of course, the lack of operating time and the low number of beds available for a practice, he has decided not to come to the area. And he finds this very, very alarming. Again, when he looks at the age of the current urology staff there, and certainly he started in his letter to go through a few other departments where he sees the same kinds of concern being raised by his surgeons at Valley Regional, and so therefore it leads me to the pressures that are on Valley Regional, and I would say that outside of the QE2. Not just from our tour, but living close to that area, I would see it again as one of the real trouble spots. And I was wondering, Mr. Minister, what plans do you have in terms of dealing with that pressure situation in a hospital where ideally, according to the Chief of Staff, 85% of the you should have about 85% of the beds occupied at a given time for good turnaround and so on, and currently operating at 100 to 110% capacity. So there's a situation that I think really needs attention, and I wonder how this budget, with its increases, may possibly start to address the Valley regional situation.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and indeed, I do not in any way take issue with the honourable member with respect to the pressures that are being experienced by that facility. And I did have the opportunity of meeting with the District Health Authority, and I believe Dr. Robertson was in attendance at that meeting. And because we recognize the pressures that are there, we've made available to the District Health Authority an amount of $1 million for them to do appropriate preparation and planning to address the circumstances described by the honourable member. And it is our intention to respond to that planning process in an appropriate manner to assist them in addressing those circumstances. In the course of our conversation at the meeting with the DHA, I was able to explain to Dr. Robertson, because he was of the view that we were looking at something in the vicinity of 10 years to be able to address this, and I assured him on that occasion that we're looking at a period of less than 5 years to have the issue fully addressed. And however, the planning is essential to being able to do it, and of course once the work gets underway, it just takes time to be able to do the design, get the tenders called, and get construction that's necessary done and underway. But we're very much aware of that situation. We're very determined to address it in the long run. I have been encouraged in recent months by the numbers that I see relative to that facility with respect to the recruitment and retention of nurses, which of course is a very important element of being able to attract doctors. They want to know that they have adequate nurses and other medical professionals to be able to do their work. And so there has been a major shift and some reason for encouragement with respect to that particular issue. So the honourable member does raise an issue. We are very much aware of it. We're working with the DHA to address that, but short-term solutions we'll work with them to assist them in their recruitment and retention. We do have a longer-term process that we have to go through to fix that on a permanent basis, and that is our objective.
Thank you, Minister. The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. The other area that, of course, touching upon with Valley Regional is, in fact, the emergency room and a very difficult overflow situation that takes place on a daily basis at the hospital. And so, again, we see that emergency room is not operating perhaps quite like it should. Certainly, in all of the communities that we visited, it was, of course, here in Halifax with the QE too, and also being on site during the nurses' dilemma, in particular, aggravated through the Christmas period, but brought to light very, very. I guess, critical and wondersome situation for the long term. And certainly the message that we received when we went to the 10 to 15 different communities that our tour went around, how emergency rooms currently operate is of huge concern. At the QE2 in particular, which is the province's trauma center and really embraces PEI as well, it certainly does not operate as a trauma center to the extent that it should. In fact, it operates more sometimes as an outpatient, as a general emergency room, and we all know that there are many cases that probably should not even enter the doors to create the backlog and true emergencies not being handled perhaps as timely and so on as they should. And what I'm really wondering here is, Minister, is there again a true plan to allow the good professionals we do have to operate in the trauma center as they should? Is it going to take a structural change? Is there going to have to be the equivalent of a Cobequid medical center for Halifax? How, in the long term, are we going to bring some assurance to the professionals and to the people of Halifax and indeed the province that it can operate? I think in particular, when we were in Kentville, of the emergency room doctor there, the IRP, who told us that it is very common for him to go to Halifax with a critical patient and be in the ambulance for up to 2 hours. And there's almost, because of his level of competence, in fact, he encumbers the burden of having to remain in the ambulance. In other words, if things deteriorate a little bit, he's able to look after them. Meanwhile, you now have a GP who is the backup at Valley Regional. I mean, this is not again what we would call the best delivery. So it's all seems to be contingent on that bottleneck at the QE2, and I just like to know if you have some longer term, some new view on how that issue is going to find a satisfactory resolve for Nova Scotians.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to point out that we do have trauma teams working, and they're working effectively. The question is, can we improve the circumstances under which they're working? And that will certainly be part of the results that we will achieve as we improve the delivery of emergency medicine at the QE2 facility. And we are taking steps to do that. There was a comment that the honourable member may have missed that I made earlier, and that is with respect to the amount of time that ambulances spend at the QE2. That is recognized as being a problem, and the QE2 and EHS have been working on that problem and finding ways of resolving it. I understand that real progress has been made over the past 2 months. There is still more work to be done, but it is something that is being addressed. The 10-point plan which we have brought forward, and I want to point out that it was never our intent when we brought that forward to say that this was going to cure the thing overnight. There were short-term initiatives that we could take that would improve the delivery of emergency care in that facility. But the longer term, of course, is that we had to provide, or the medium term, I should say, we had to provide additional nursing care beds within the metro area. We have made a significant announcement with respect to that this week, and the 33 beds by the end of this summer should be in place. And with that, we're opening up some of the bottleneck. Obviously, the longer-term solution centers around the expansion of the facility itself, and the design work for that is currently underway, and we would anticipate that moving forward on schedule. So the provision of these longer-term care beds does help somewhat. And if I could go back to the situation that he described in the Valley Regional, the backlog of emergency patients that was occurring there, again, that pointed to the need for additional long-term care beds. And those beds, as the honourable member would know, we have opened a number of those, 16 in April, 14 will be opened in June, and that will be a total of 30 additional long-term care beds there. So the extent to which long-term care patients occupying acute care beds is part of the difficulty, that is moving toward resolution, and it should assist in the flow-through of patients with respect to the Valley Regional facility. So we're taking steps, we're making progress, and I feel confident that as we move forward, these problems can be addressed. One of the major problems with respect to the QE2 facility, of course, is a structural problem in that the original planning, which called for 2 emergency rooms in this province, was not implemented, and by increasing the capacity, we will address that shortfall. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. One of the terms that we kept hearing a lot, especially from the CEOs, and we met quite a number of them as we went to the different health districts, is the burden of disease. And we know that in Nova Scotia, we do have statistics in terms of cancer rates and cardiovascular, circulatory, diabetes, and so on, well above the national average. And having taught some geography, I know the demographics fairly well in the province. And when I look at that age group, 35 to 55, where 1 in almost 3 now Nova Scotians are in that age cohort, and that is certainly the age bracket where the sedentary lifestyle, the obesity, the early onset, or I should say adult onset diabetes and so on, all come into play. And I absolutely believe that, some of the health promotion areas, and I've been involved, for example, with a kickoff program in Kingston with kids, with the Active Kids, the Healthy Kids program. I'm wondering what kind of educational model and thrust is going to be upon that particular age group, 35 to 55, where almost 1 in 3 Nova Scotians are now situated. And knowing how the increases are likely to occur if we continue with the same type of trends and patterns that our health is going. If we don't dramatically alter it, we're going to place an even greater burden on the healthcare system. So I'm just wondering, what are a few of the initiatives that are going on to try to take some action now to prevent an even greater crush on the system as we move into the next 20, 25-year period, when those people will then be 55 to 75. And so I think it's absolutely critical that we're doing something now. So I would like to know what the Department of Health is doing along those particular lines.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Health.
One thing we're doing is chronic disease prevention. Chronic disease management.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We really, when we come to this age group or any other age group, there are sort of two responsibilities here. One is the responsibility that I have as Minister of Health, and the other is the responsibility of the Minister of Health Promotion in the province. Our great challenge, of course, is chronic disease management and the treatment of that disease. And that is why I look to the Minister of Health Promotion and wish him great success in his endeavors, because it's only through his success that our burden of management will in fact be reduced. And I do know that through his efforts, and we have had some success with respect to reducing the use of tobacco in this province, and we can continue to address that both through the, well, mostly through the Office of Health Promotion. Healthy eating is also extremely important, and I know that there are initiatives with respect to reaching the overall population relative to the importance of healthy eating. And it's interesting, as we have to eat a lot of our meals out in restaurants when we're here in the city doing our work. One of the things that I'm noticing is that even in restaurants, that when you go in, you have choices now. It used to be, if you got a sandwich, there were fries that came with it, and that was it. But now they offer you a salad, or they offer you a soup, or something. And I can honestly say, Mr. Chairman, I probably have had a handful of French fries since the new year, simply because I'm becoming aware of the fact that I can substitute other things. So I think that the fact that that's happening is an element that some progress is being made relative to the issue of healthy eating. Obviously, the challenge is to get everybody to move in the direction of having the soup or the salad as opposed to the fries. The issue of alcohol consumption is an important issue. It's one that we need to address and are working at addressing, and I'm sure the Minister of Health Promotion, when doing his estimates, will in fact be addressing that, as well as the need for physical activity. And I believe I believe the two important elements of this, and a little late in life coming to this conclusion, but better now than never. But I think the two important elements relative to this are the healthy foods, healthy eating, and the physical exercise. And I believe that if those two were emphasized in lifestyles, I think tobacco would be less of a priority in people's lives, and alcohol consumption would be less of a priority in people's lives. So the last point I want to make in all of this is, and the honourable member references that age group of 30 to 50, one of the age groups that we are focusing on relative to the issue of healthy living are the children of our population. And we're doing that because we have a serious problem relative to children in this province and their lifestyles. But if we can reach the children, then we'll get the adults, because I believe that the children will have a great influence on the parents in terms of lifestyle. And I say that as a person with some experience relative to the use of tobacco. If it were not for my youngest son being persistent at age 3 of emptying my wife and I both smoked, he would get our packages of cigarettes, and whenever he found them, and he would find them, and he would take the cigarettes and break them in two or put them in the toilet. And he'd leave them there for us to see. He wouldn't, they were left. And after a while, we got the message, and we quit. Hardest thing I ever did in my life, and I don't want to bore members who were here in the last session with the story about how I quit smoking, but I won't do that. But I won't do that. But it was the most difficult thing that I ever did in my life, but I was very positive, both me and both of us were very positively influenced by the activity of our son, who didn't like the exposure to smoke, and he was influenced by what he was seeing by way of television ads and things of that nature. So I think it's very important that we address this issue with our youth, and I believe that the age group to which you're referring can be significantly influenced if we can get the job done with our youth.
Thank you, Minister. The honourable member for Kings West.
I am very, very pleased to see that the minister is taking all those good initiatives to heart that we have out there, especially if we get out to health seminars and any kind of educational model. We know that that's very, very big on the agenda. I did have a second question here, but I think I will wait until the Minister of Health promotion has his day, and I'll go back to him. I wanted to share this time today, so therefore just a couple of more questions. One of the areas that we saw and experienced on our tour was in Cape Breton, and Dr. McCormick, I think Dr. Rod McCormick at the Cancer Center at the Cape Breton Regional Hospital, and I was very, very taken by not just the new equipment and the new surroundings and the work that he's doing there, but how he is doing his practice, and that is by having the cancer treatments offered directed by him, I guess through telemedicine, to 2 or 3 of the other sites, smaller hospitals in Cape Breton. I thought it is a great model for a greater utilization. And one of the things that struck me there, and as we went to some of the other health districts, is that not all health districts are, I wouldn't say created equal, but certainly they're not operating, I don't think, in an equal fashion, even though they do offer different services and so on. Excuse me. I would have to say that there is better utilization, there is better practices, and I am wondering why some of our smaller hospitals, our rural hospitals, can't adapt some of those kinds of practices and take some of the pressure off of our regional hospitals. I would have to observe that over the past 5 years, rightly or wrongly, either again with strong direct initiatives or maybe through indirect processes, I would have to think that the current deputy minister has put greater emphasis on the regional hospitals as opposed to rural medicine here in the province, which certainly needs that kind of attention. And I referenced that particular model that I saw there because it took pressure off the Cape Breton Regional Hospital, and it made the other smaller hospitals, I thought, work more effectively and kept those patients in their communities. And I'm just wondering why we don't have more measures and means going on in our smaller hospitals across the province. Is that the decision of the CEOs and the DHAs, or should we be having stronger directives on a provincial basis as part of a plan emanating from the Minister of Health or Ministry of Health for the province?
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And the situation described by the honourable member indeed is one which is growing in its capacity and application throughout the province. And I can say to the honourable member that it is a function not only of administratively, but it's also a function relative to the capacity and motivation of practitioners to be able to employ the technologies that exist. And there is more and more of an inclination for people to do that than ever before. And just to perhaps illustrate the example of the fact that it is not just one district, it moves from district to district, that the same Dr. McIntosh you referenced also provides that kind of service to St. Martha's Hospital in Antigonish for cancer patients there. So there is a recognition of the value of employing this technology, and we are encouraging the use of that technology throughout the province. And it's, as I say, there is more and more education taking place relative to its employment. There are more and more practitioners who are in tune with technology and prepared to use it. And I think that eventually we will see a much greater use of this level of technology in our province. But it is definitely something that we encourage and want to see a lot more of in this province, because it's a very, very effective use of human resource to be able to do that.
Thank you, Minister. The honourable member for Kings West.
I guess, two questions to finish up. First of all, at Valley Regional, I know they have been requesting and asking the CEO there, and probably on to the minister, about an oncologist for Valley Regional. And certainly that area of medicine in the Valley is certainly, we are at a decided disadvantage, and especially with patients that elderly patients that have to come to Halifax for this kind of treatment. And I know there is a desire to certainly have that area covered in a strong fashion at Valley Regional. And I was wondering, do you have